with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Commands, talk today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here. It's another edition of Talk Today on this truly thankful Thursday as we invite you to be a part of it. 1-800-534-TALK. We've got a bunch of other numbers that we can share with you. Get your pen and paper handy. If you got to type in your phone, that's your style. That's fine as well. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us as we invite you to be a part of our Talk Today. It's going to be some open line as we will entertain your calls, ask you to share your thoughts with us, and momentarily, Director of HMCI, Ms. Danny Coleman, will sit in with us for a bit. A lot has happened in the last few days, like all of us. We're very grateful and thank God for sparing us, bringing us through. We're also mindful that, because of the earthquake in Haiti, the passage of the storm in our neighboring islands, may not have feared as well. We were probably fearful. Many of us were certainly appreciative and cognizant and giving thanks for the immediate and the very apparent blessings of safety, security, preserving the sanity for causing us to respond with a sense of civility. And with that, I think that's what drives us to the sense of stability and prosperity as we invite you to call and share your thoughts with us. 949-8837, 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Any way you choose, I want to hear from you and share your thoughts. A very special thanks, to all the men and women, either in uniform, who are conscripted otherwise, who are also, volunteering in their private capacities, some who officially setting about in their duties, who continue to do a stellar job at ensuring that we are, again, positioned to move forward quickly and safely. So to all of our civil servants and their private sector cohorts who have reminded us of how working together with a very, very deliberate and defined objective of making a stronger, safer, healthier country really, really bodes well for all of us. So a special thanks. As we move about our roads, we'll remind you to be extra careful and cautious. And as a listener, being, sending blessings to all, a thanks to the CUC, for the great job they did last evening, for the light, and was able to get some really, really sweet, cool sleep. I think many of us are always appreciative that we take so much for granted. We are, without question, sometimes not even cognizant that we are taking all of these things for granted. But at the end of the day, when we have interruption and our creature comforts that we have come to so easily accept as norm, it is not always the wake-up call that we want, but sometimes it's a reminder to be grateful. In all things, give thanks. Now, a few things I want to share with you as we invite you to call and be a part of a discussion. I want to thank Kathy and OC for sitting away. I had some scheduled time away from the desk. Well appreciative of having it, and grateful for them to sit in with us. Now, there have been 4 sites that have been set up for us to be able to take our debris. These temporary sites for the storm cleanup in East End, it's at the East End Civic Centre. In Borden Town, it's at the Government Emergency Training Site on Anton Borden Road. In Prospect, there's the NRA stockpile at Poindexter Road. And in West Bay, it's the vacant Crown property next to the Ed Bush Stadium. Now, please, this is for vegetation, so your trees, all of those things that we are so conscious of trying our best to preserve, and realize now that they have been, because of the wind and the rain, have been toppled over. If you can't save and salvage them, you can take them for removal, but only vegetation, okay? No construction debris, nothing else. And these temporary sites, again, to facilitate the removal of trees as you clean up our yards in our neighborhoods and the roads. One in East End, the Civic Centre. In Borden Town at the Government Emergency Training Site on Anton Borden Road. In Prospect at NRA stockpile at Poindexter Road. And then in West Bay, that vacant Crown land next to the Ed Bush Stadium. So as you move about and need a place to take your vegetation, down trees that you're not going to be able to somehow use in another way or save and salvage, please just the vegetation. Now, as you heard Miss Susan when she was doing the weather report or the traffic report earlier, just be careful. The crews are out, people are out trying to get things cleaned up, restore power. I saw my good friends from the utilities, including the telecoms, in their bucket trucks, just trying to string the lines again. So be mindful of them. Many of us like to see what happens after a storm passes and just get informed. And West Bay would say, you're catching gap seeds. Some of you might say it's another way. But if you can, perhaps don't go out unless you really have to, for your own safety and the safety of others. But sometimes it's just good to get out, and I certainly, would be inclined to do so at times. But consider whether you have to or not. And as the cleanup is ongoing, here are some stuff that we want to maybe remind you that take it easy on the roads. If you have to go out because of the cleanup, here are some tips that we want you to be cognizant of. On the road, you don't be aggressive. Drive with some caution. In fact, drive in a defensive way. What is it that we were told? If you see a ball bouncing, chances are a little child is going to be coming running behind it. Well, anticipate, and so be very cautious. Of course, the pedestrians sometimes don't necessarily pay close attention. So as drivers, let's be extra careful and watch out for pedestrians. We know that we might not be conscious that our vehicles have been damaged because of the storms, but so too could be the roads. And then as people are walking along the side of the road, well, they might not necessarily be as conscious that a car is coming. So when we're out moving about, you see some standing flood water, we'll drive around it. And thinking that if you drive through the flood water, well, it's okay. Well, even the standing water that doesn't appear deep can be deeper than you realize, can cause damage to the vehicle. We're going to pause and take a break. We'll continue to share a little bit of trips, these little tips for you as well. But again, if they're in a down power lines, avoid them, watch out for them. You might realize they're there, so be very, very, very conscious and cautious as we drive. Let's pause and take the break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Thompson Shipping, a name synonymous with cargo and goods to and from the Cayman Islands. Thompson Shipping is agent for tropical shipping, offering all types of shipping services, container loads or partial container loads, with agents in many locations. Shipping to Little Cayman, Cayman Brac, or anywhere in the world. Call Thompson Shipping at 949-8044 or visit their website at www.thompsonshipping.com. Let Thompson Shipping take care of your shipping needs. Thompson Shipping, 949-8044.
Thompson Shipping.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We are here for you. Please be advised that the pension contribution holiday has been extended until 31st of December 2021. Employers and plan members should ensure arrangements are in place for salary deductions and remittance following this date. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan, keeping you informed. For further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. We're here for you.
Radio Cayman,
The voice,
The heart,
the soul of the Cayman Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for sharing with us on this open line edition, 949-8037, or the Flow toll-free line at 1-800-534-8255. Let's go to our phones. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey, my friend. How are you doing?
Very fine, very fine.
Good, man. I hope the storm didn't, affect you too much. In fact, hopefully you had a bit of grace as it did.
Yeah, it was the blessing of God that
Amen. Yeah, man.
we don't really get any serious incidents in Cayman. And just some trees in the road on north side, and I come out front of where I live, and we clean up the road, we clear the branches and stuff to open the road. And I really publicly want today to thank the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. J.E. Banks, the MLA for Northside. The fast response he did for Northside, he come out and a lot of residents with him, clearing all the roads from the branches of the broken trees. It is very good, that you see a minister working in his own hand and he clearing the road, the first one before the citizens. That's something, good example we want to sit in Cayman and see people doing all their best, and the MLAs, they come out and do their best for their people. And that's the type of MLA we want. We keep in J.E. Banks forever here in Northside, I hope, and the people seeing the good work he doing. We see some roads was dirt for past 15, 16 years. It was only dirt, going to people's homes, and now it is asphalt. And that's a good thing, that when you have a good representative who do his best. You see a disaster like this hit Cayman and the roads close. I mean, his own excavator his father bring his own machine equipment. That's very good. I mean, a good citizen, when good citizens do good things, we need to thank them. Also, I want to thank CUC workers. I see them working very hard in the road. They're doing a great job. Those guys working everywhere in the island to restore light, and it come back very quick. I mean, the National Road Authority, I see cars from National Road Authority, they in the road, they are so we thank them too. We thank Mr. Tibbet from the National Weather. I mean, he did a great job, and he always doing a great job. All the hazard management, the police, I see the police patrolling. That's very good thing. I mean, everything was going very good. I mean, this government, set up everything in the right way, and that's the first time I see a government set up everything the right way. So I think we have to thank the honorable premier, the cabinet, all the MLAs who come out and work hard and did their best for this country in such event. I mean, the fast response was very good.
You're right, man. You're right. If I can ask you though, because you always seem to not only show the appreciation, and as you are sharing sort of gratitude and a vote of thanks to all the people that played a key role. Something that you've mentioned many, many times, and it seems evident when we have events like this, that the politicians come together and they work together, not just for a public demonstration of sort of public relations, but a genuine attempt because of the love, respect, and value that we have for each other and the country. Remember, you had mentioned, why is it that the politicians can't agree to disagree, but work together all the time and not be that divided house as it is when we see, the partisan politics at play. What do you think of that? I mean, could we now use this as a good platform to continue that spirit of cooperation as a country, led by our political leaders, and lead by example?
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne, if we want to talk about, MLAs, I mean, I always say the truth about any one of them. No matter who upset, who don't upset, it's not matter for me. As much I am saying what is good for the general public, to open the general public eyes, who working, who is not working. Last week was some event for children, and they video this event in Winsley Park, and the MLA David White and Joe Hugh was there giving free pizza to the children. And why they are videoing that? I mean, Dwayne, it is humiliating to those kids. So on the other side, you find people who trying to use the people to promote themselves, or use children to promote themselves, and that's shameful.
All right. I hear your perspective, right? But I'm just humiliating. What about the word exploiting? I mean, was that the word that you would want to use from the perspective of politicians like business taking a situation and capitalize on it for good PR to publicize what is it that they're trying to achieve within their community? Maybe it's par for the course, and okay, not necessarily humiliating, but maybe capitalizing on the opportunity.
I mean, it is disrespectful that I send, for example, if God forbid I send my child there to an event and they video that, trust me, I'm the first one will be suing them for, humiliating, a child.
Yeah.
Because this is very disrespectful what Mr. Hugh and what is Mr. White doing to the children. I think it is very shameful.
I hear you. But let me ask them. I mean, in closing, maybe we can now spin that, coin on his head and ask, is there a way now to going forward back to what you're sharing? We are now able to work together, and let's see the good in what we are trying to achieve, and not look so much at the thing that divides us.
Dwayne, we want to come back to the same subject, which is really the fast response from all government departments. I see that. I see all of these government departments, they are working hard during the storm. They are doing their best. We want to thank every one of them for doing that great job. And especially we want to thank the residents of Northside, the MLA for Northside, Mr. J.E. Banks, the everyone who come out from those residents, volunteer to clear the road and work, everyone who give his equipment. We see all the citizens working together, and I'm very sure other areas there is work being done by citizens and those people. There is a lot of good citizens in this country who care and worry about this country. Dwayne, when I was clearing the roads and the rain falling and wearing a plastic jacket, and the police passed me, police officer tell me, "You're crazy, what you doing?" I tell him, "No, man, we need to clear the road first. It has to be clear. Somebody have to do it."
Yep. Well, thank you, and this is where, if I may say, we see it oftentimes. We know some countries, they have that as almost accepted norm. As citizens, you go out, not only because you're cooperative, but you have the training, the support of your neighbors, and you go out and you clear the roads safely, responsibly, and sensibly. So thank you, and to all your neighbors and the wider community, and also, as you shared, our thanks to those in uniform. Hey, thanks very much, my friend. We'll chat with you some more, all right?
All right.
Good. We do have Ms. Danny Coleman, but we do have another caller as we listen. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dwayne Banks.
Good afternoon, General. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. And what I'm going to say is, will be very brief. I seen something this morning came on my phone. I understand it. It could be one of our leaders, the Honorable Speaker of the House, Mr. McKeever Bush, trying to get 10 people, maybe for his constituency, to work in that area. I would hope that I see this quickly, or a quick response from the other three, that we'll get like 40 people, all hands on deck in the district of Westway, because we've got a lot of stuff to clean up. And
Yes,
I don't think we should wait before the next hurricane comes. We should try to get things done now, and it's a good time to start, because right in my garden alone, I got a couple of big trees, and as I just drove just a distance, it's really something that we need to take it in hand and not let it go on too long. So I just hope that this is not falling on deaf ears. We need to get people employed and get it over with.
Yes, sir.
So thank you so much, man. Thank you for listening to me.
And thank you, too. Thank you. When we come back from this short break, we're going to ask you especially to rejoin us, because this is where the country functions so well. We have ladies of this caliber taking on the mantle. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
The HSA Specialist Clinic has relocated to a new, modern, state-of-the-art facility at Smith Road Center to offer you a better patient experience. Receive care from top specialists in chiropractic, complementary and alternative medicine, neurology, ENT, urology, pain management, and more. Our orthopedic and telemedicine clinics remain at the Cayman Islands Hospital campus. Please remember to bring your own face mask when visiting any HSA location. Visit our website, hsa.ky, to learn more. At the HSA, you matter to us.
Join us on Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 a.m. on Radio Cayman for The Business Buzz. The Business Buzz is produced by Susan Watson and hosted by Anita Khan, who brings her own unique, enthusiastic, and engaging perspective to The Business Buzz. Tune in as we put a spotlight on a wide cross-section of businesses in the Cayman Islands. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 a.m. on Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And I say this with a great sense of pride and respect and admiration. And, not only looking to the ladies in my life, but the ladies like you who are stellar. I mean, you're just stalwarts within society. Epitomize, what professionalism is within the civil service. Ms. Gloria McFelix and Ms. Daniel Coleman. On behalf of, the rest of us, can we just say thanks to both of you, individually and collectively, for your continued leadership. It's really wonderful that when we perhaps drive, or walk, hopefully, out in town and we see that small statue, it should be 15 million feet high and just as wide, and it still wouldn't be enough to show what the resolve is, especially amongst our women. So you guys take up the mantle and carry it so easily, so thanks.
Thank you so much. That's very kind words.
Oh my! It is said with a sincerity and a genuine sense of appreciation. And this is why those Iron Men on wooden ships could do what they did, because they left behind partners who were so much better, and they knew it. Who were so much sort of imbued with that sense of commitment, dedication, loyalty, and love for family and community, and it passes from generation to generation. So here we are.
Thank you, Sterling. I really appreciate that.
We've had, in a sense, many storms in our lives, from what may transpire at home to our business to the natural storm that Mother Nature may throw at us. And sometimes, like the small little things that could be that straw that breaks the camel's back, as it were, this is it's a tropical storm according to our scale. Mm-hmm. It's not a category 5 plus, 0.069 31, whatever the numbers may be off on whatever scale. And yet, we can see how devastating small things can be, but also how significant small things are when we do it properly. Maybe Miss Danny, if you want to set the stage for us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too, and all your listeners, Sterling. I think that's a really good point. I mean, ultimately speaking, a lot of people take tropical storms for granted. It's very clear last year we had 3 different ones, and they were very, very different in capacity and strength and effects. I mean, ETA obviously did quite a lot of destruction to Grand Cayman anyway, Savannah area. But of course, yesterday's storm was again a different ball game, and I think with all the water and the flooding, it's not just the wind. We look at tropical storms and we think, it's not so bad because it's a tropical storm. Well, actually, it's all the other aspects of it that actually can make it bad. Superstorm Sandy wasn't a hurricane, didn't make a hurricane definition, and yet look at the destruction it did there. So I think it's really important to, yes, you think about the category of a storm, but also if you have something with all that moisture and all that rain in it, it's going to cause some damage, and that's what we saw yesterday.
I mean, as I was, my brothers and sisters and almost everybody else around me, that's probably why I don't have to. They love the weather. I just ask, is it raining? Yep. Got my hair wet? Yep, no problem. But
sorry.
That's how hard it was raining.
Back. That's why you can see it.
Thank you, Miss Gloria.
I'm a bit tired, so maybe you have my eyes are a bit blurry.
This is well greased. No, man, but the barometric pressure on this was quite low, right? And we see it, or we recall quite easily after Ivan just being inside on the ground floor, and Cayman is mountainous. I mean, we have really high peaks. Our ears were popping as if we were in a plane at 35,000 feet. But here is a tropical storm, and I don't believe that we should take any weather. The seaman who is out to sea doesn't take for granted the calm day. So, Miss Gloria, with that, maybe this could be another rehearsal for what goes before us and what we should be doing in order to prepare and to be safe.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. It's really tempting when you hear that it's just a tropical storm, that you think, well, that's not too serious. But as Danny said, given the amount of moisture that was associated with this storm and the fact that it was acting rather erratically and was difficult to really predict where it was going to go, we really got together and had some serious discussions about how do we respond to this. And it was really important for us to put as much information out as we could early, because one of the big decisions that the public had to make in their part of taking it seriously was to assess for themselves whether they were someplace that they felt was safe to ride out the storm, and if not, to find shelter. And I think compared to other tropical storms, we had a significant take-up. Over 30 persons were in shelters between Grand Cayman and Little Cayman, which I thought for a tropical storm is pretty high. We don't usually get that level of support. So the public certainly did their part to prepare. Also, you're talking about this, feeling motivated and really being dedicated to the job and to the work. I have to say that the men and women of the NEOC, our National Emergency Operations Center, are tremendously committed. They come from such diverse backgrounds, dealing with really important issues that will impact the way the country deals with the storm, both in its preparations, how we ride it out, but equally important, how we recover afterwards. And faced with a tropical storm, and many of them are very seasoned individuals. They've seen the Ivan and many really, really strong and threatening systems before and after that. And they could have just responded as this is almost a tabletop exercise. But they chose, even after 100 days of activation just last year in NEOC, they chose to still take this opportunity to say, we want to practice, we want to make sure that we're ready, we want to be prepared. And so we went into a full NEOC activation with scores of people that were in the building sleeping through the night. Well, maybe not so much sleeping, but there was the promise of a nap.
They were given a cot. It's about the extent of it,
and even not a dedicated cot. These were shared cots.
Rotational sharing of cots.
But even under those very luxurious circumstances, this wide group of people volunteered to come in for a full activation, and I think that made a tremendous difference in our ability to manage this weather event.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, obviously there's different groups. We have 5 clusters actually under the NEOC, and that's operations, which is ourselves, and regiment and weather. But we also have the infrastructure cluster, the emergency response, the human concerns, and the support services. They all have very specific functions, and under those 4, in particular 4, they have 17 emergency support teams who are all doing specific tasks. I think, again, having that kind of operation running for this was really a blessing in disguise and such an important part. But the whole recovery phase starts as soon as we activate. So we don't just respond. We're planning towards recovery. For example, the infrastructure cluster might not be really busy for the first few hours or first 10 hours of a storm, but they have to be getting ready for the damage assessments, the debris clearance, the utility restoration and so forth. So and even communications, It's such an important aspect that everyone's sort of running and doing their bit. And when it fits together like it has been doing recently, and I guess because it's so streamlined after last year's such a long activation, it really does. It's just a really good thing for the country, and again, it's a really good thing to be part of. We're very, I think Gloria and myself are very, very happy to be part of that because, again, some really, really committed individuals who really do at their utmost, despite the circumstances, to make sure they respond effectively.
Yeah, and this is, I just want to make sure I got my notes and everything correct, but this is where that whole cooperative spirit, the organization, the ability to train and to do sort of case exercises, but when you have a real life scenario, your sort of presence here is indicative of not just a continued commitment. We're all exhausted. Some of us have slept, some of us haven't. We promised to lose at some point. But I say that to share that even as we go into the program, reach out to Ms. Pat Clark, the manager for corporate communications over at CUC. Hopefully in the next half hour or so, we'll have an opportunity to speak to the organization about some of the things, because this is not just the individual, this is not just the public sector, this is corporate, and the collaborative effort of all of us to be safe, to be responsive, but also to be positioned so that we were not sort of twiddling our thumbs in a vacuum.
The private partnership with, for example, the economic continuity, the Chamber of Commerce are the lead of that under the NEOC, and they were there yesterday with us, and again they have a fundamental part to play for the restoration of the country and making sure that we can continue operating and have the sensitivities also to consider what the needs are from restaurateurs, tourist trade, whatever it might be. It's a really great private-public partnership. Something that
I've been, and maybe it's not the opportune time to speak to, but as you just shared, when we talk about national sort of emergency operations, you've seen the public sector, but then the private sector through the chamber, that collaborative effort, not just in building a building or deploying a program, but getting back up and running, because before the thing happens, you've already have a plan as to how to respond. Yes. So the business sector is on board, when they're going to open, how they're going to close, which employee is going to be mobilized. It speaks well for what Cayman is and what we will be with that continuous spirit.
And I wouldn't want us to forget the very important involvement as well of civil society.
Yeah.
The Red Cross has always been a valued partner. They were there with us throughout. They were one of the first shelters to activate. They have a very well-prepared, rehearsed plan for how they manage their shelter operations, and they continue to be an integral part in that the people, the partners that come to the table to make sure we keep Cayman safe.
Yeah. Well, with that, Ms. Gloria, I really appreciate you sharing that, because this is what speaks to who we are as a society. The caller shared earlier, they went out as a community working together to clear the roads. Now, with proper training, with continued input, we're not just doing what we did because that's who we are, but we're doing it in a better, organized, more efficient, proactive manner. It's going to just be best as we go forward, right?
Yeah, I'm a massive believer. CERT teams, the community emergency response teams. I love I love CERT teams.
You have a partner.
They're one of my absolute. I love working with them. I think they are an incredible part of what we do in the national level. So they're actually working today, do wellness checks. They're helping with gardens. They're helping with all sorts of things, identifying people who need extra assistance. And again, we're always strongly encouraging people to, reach out to us to ask about the CERT training. That is a public partnership. Sorry, it's a partnership with the Red Cross. Again, we've done 3 teams this year. We usually try and do 2 teams a year. And this year, because of last year's experience, we're like, let's try and get more and more to CERT teams. We have done 2 generalist trainings this year, and again, that's inviting all over the Cayman Islands, or Grand Cayman, to come and join that team. It's usually a geographical location, and so we did one last weekend, for example, in Northside, and it's a heck of a commitment. It's a 40-hour training, so you are and ongoing training as well. So the community-minded people who come together and who actually really want to be part of the solution.
Yeah, well, this is where I think we have much to be grateful for, because we have that responsiveness within the people. We see it when it comes to giving. There's a very charitable nature, but you also see it when it comes to service, not through attendance at service clubs, but actually being present and physical, accounted to clear the roads, to go into the communities and check on our neighbours. When we come back, we want to invite you to share more with us, and we want to celebrate and show our appreciation for the continuing service. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The West Bay Police Station has now returned to 242 West Church Street and is operating as normal. In international news, Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry says his country is on its knees after more than 2,000 people were killed in Saturday's powerful earthquake. Mr. Henry said Haiti was physically and mentally devastated. More than 12,000 people have been left injured and 332 are still missing after the 7.2 magnitude earthquake. U.S. President Joe Biden says U.S. troops may stay in Afghanistan beyond his planned August 31st withdrawal date to help evacuate Americans. There have been chaotic scenes at Kabul airport as foreign powers seek to get their citizens home. President Biden again defended his handling of Afghanistan, where the Taliban have capitalized on the U.S. pulling out to sweep to power. Facebook and Instagram have removed several hateful comments on U.S. singer Lizzo's social media accounts. The move comes after the singer spoke tearfully about the hurtful abuse she'd received on social media. A spokesman for Facebook told The Hollywood Reporter the comments, which had been removed, broke the company's rules about hate speech and harassment. Earlier this week, Lizzo said she had received attacks online which were fatphobic and racist. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Aston Shedden Rutty, MBE 1990 to 1977. Aston Rutty was the first child born to Henry Watson Rutty, ISO JP, and Julia Ann Rutty Nilazari at Stake Bay, Cayman Brac. He attended school at Stake Bay and as a young teenager was sent to Jamaica to attend technical training school. On his return, he worked for his father, who was collector of customs for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. He eventually became the Sister Islands' first district commissioner. Mr. Rutty was married to Ruth Merrin in 1931, and the couple had 4 children. Mr. Rutty is best remembered for his dedication and diligent work to rebuild the Sister Islands in the aftermath of the 1932 hurricane. He was involved in the construction of roads, the airport, government buildings, and much of the infrastructure of the Sister Islands. He served as an immigration and customs officer, as a judge, and after retiring from government in 1960 as a law agent. The Civic Center on the Bluff was named in his honor. Aston Shedden Rutty.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to Miss Gloria McNeil-Nixon and Miss Danny Coleman for joining us. Now, if I could ask as we go into this segment, many people would have heard New York. You know, they may become increasingly familiar with it. They may know it to be the National Emergency Operations Center. Committee? Center. It's Center, I know.
Yeah. It used to be the Hurricane Committee, which morphed into the National Emergency Operations Center.
If it's not speaking at a school, could we I know you shared, the 5 clusters and the 13 teams that they're on. But what is it, and how is it activated, and when it's activated, what does it mean? And then, I'll ask another thing. Yeah.
Okay, so the whole process, it all kind of comes after Ivan.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Hurricane Committee was a brilliant committee, but I think the government realised that obviously we needed to expand it for multi-hazards and all hazards. So hazard management was born in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
and the NEOC kind of came up as a result over the last few years after that. It's quite a big structure. So you have the executive at the top, National Hazard Management Executive, which is chaired by the Premier and the Governor, and that's all the ministers, the Commissioner of Police, and so forth. It's quite a big group, and leader of the opposition. Then we've also got the council, which is sort of like a briefing house beforehand. So any hurricane coming, for example, we have a full briefing that includes all head of departments. It includes chief officers, it includes sort of all the operational aspects, Red Cross, voluntary agencies. And that, again, is about 120 people in there. But the NEOC itself, the National Emergency Operations Centre, is the operational tactical level.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, we have these 17 emergency support teams. And they sort of make the operational decisions. So it'll be things like resources. Do we have trucks to evacuate people? Do we have food for shelters? Do we have... and those kind of resources. We have Travel Cayman in there. Obviously, we have all the quarantines right now. We had 1,400 people to consider for quarantiners who might need to be moved.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you'd probably look at about 15% of those people potentially being moved in an emergency. But you still have to consider, obviously, all the PPE and making sure the
Mm-hmm.
transportation is done in a sanitised way. And we have mental health in there. We have voluntary agency responders. We have security, certs, debris management, all those kind of things. There's 17 of them, and it's such an important aspect, again, all making decisions. Now, under each emergency support teams, we have about 60 people, 75 people in the room, including Zoom. But each emergency support team has another 5 or 6 people who make up that team. You only see the leader in the room, but they are liaising with their team on the ground. So it's a massive multi-agency, public and private enterprise. And I think because it's streamlined over the years, we are getting to quite a cohesive, fairly smooth operation. But it does take all of us to get involved and to make sure it works.
Okay. And for those who are listening, how is and what triggers it to sort of come into play?
Okay. It really depends. I mean, last year, for example, in the COVID situation, the CMO and myself were in Miami in January doing ironically enough, a pandemic national plan update. And of course, that meeting with Public Health England, got slightly sabotaged by the COVID experience, and we kind of morphed that into COVID talks. But again, that's when we came back, we're like, this is a risk assessment as to what could potentially happen here in Cayman. We need to include the executive and the policy and council groups to make sure we can respond effectively, but be very proactive with our messaging and activation. So that was a risk assessment. With this was more of the council obviously gets any storms coming, the council gets briefed, but it was a decision made by the council themselves this time to actually make this a full activation. Mm-hmm. Hazard management last year, for example, the tropical storms kind of worked in a very small activation with key stakeholders, but it was a much smaller operation. Fortunately for this one, everyone came on board to do it. I think in future, again, it really does. It's a risk assessment as to how we think what this looks like, and as a result, we either decide full or semi-partial activation.
So when the emergency center is activated, what, if any, sort of particular rules, protocols, laws, or anything that may happen or may come into play?
We have our own law. Hazard management law is
right.
a key factor here. Again, that's just been revised in 2019, and that lays out what our responsibilities are, and it's very comprehensive, again, with the whole setup, but also what our responsibilities are to respond, to prepare, to mitigate against any kind of any emergency, and also recovery. So the rules are kind of laid out in there. Now, again, that law itself also provides for the disaster fund, which is great because we do have a good disaster fund in case something happens. Obviously, some of it was used in COVID last year, but at the same time, and that provides for things like PPE, all sorts of things that can be utilised for that. And again, that's decided on by the executive. but it also allows for sort of designated areas. So before in the past, with the All Clear, for example, we'd have to keep all 3 islands together. Now, under that law, we can have designated sort of disaster areas, and potential Grand Cayman potentially could be affected, like we saw yesterday, whereas the sister islands aren't quite so badly affected. So we can call the All Clear somewhere else beforehand. And if something was much worse yesterday, we can obviously have Cayman having curfew, whereas the sister islands might not if they weren't so badly affected. So the disaster preparedness law actually does provide for a lot of that.
And would it allow, for instance, let's say on Grand Cayman, we can see the separation from island to island to island across the 3. But say on Grand Cayman, one sector was badly affected. Go back to Ivan.
Yeah.
We saw that you could have curfew, you could have greater restrictions in that area.
Yeah, we could have a curfew in Bontown and not other places.
Right.
Obviously, you've got to think about the logistics of people coming through Bontown, but it's designated areas. Also, acquiring public property and acquiring vehicles and personnel as well for reassigning civil servants. So it's quite a comprehensive law. And what is good about it, again, in the past, more likely to call emergency powers, where of course the cabinet is suspended. Whereas under our legislation, we can actually do a lot of things without having to call emergency powers. And that in itself is good because, of course, Cabinet have a fundamental role to play in this.
Thank you. You saw where I was going with that. Because when I asked about when sort of state of emergency in our jurisdictions we saw after Ivan, for instance, when that was put into effect. So in this case, we don't have to call on the emergency powers to declare a state of emergency and still function. Now, would it be almost akin to that level of authority under this legislation as if there were a state of emergency being declared?
Yeah, there's so many things we can do under this law. That wouldn't require. I think if we had a Category 5 and massive issues, then we would call an emergency powers, like the governor would likely call emergency powers. But I think there's a lot we can do in the meantime before we get to that stage.
Interesting.
I think what's really important about that, and you're talking about the significance, when we all come together, we're able to get real-time views and comments, interpretation, response from all the different policymakers. So everyone is getting the same information at the same time. And they're able to, for example, when we get that weather report, the Port Authority is able to talk about what this is going to mean for marine interest. You're able to have responses from our NRA about what that means for some of the flooding for low-lying areas. You're able to have implications that have been assessed in terms of when we might be able to have air ops as it relates either to the airport being operating or for our emergency services, the helicopter for the police to be able to safely go up in the air. So we're able to assess what are our options. It also allows for coordination, and it was tremendous to see that in the room yesterday because that could either go one of two ways. You have all of these individuals who've got tremendous resources behind them and a lot of experience, and you could have people going in 5 different directions. What we saw yesterday was really well coordinated. So we got in some calls, unfortunately, persons that were in medical distress, an individual who was going into labor. But the situation wasn't just a medical situation. The first thing you had to do was you had to be able to get there and provide assistance. So our fire department is very accustomed to working with our EMTs. But for them to provide that assistance, they had to get to her. And the roadways that led to that expectant mother required them to move some heavy trees that were blocking the path. And so you saw the regiment with specialist equipment that was able to all 3 of them converge on the scene so that a response, we were able to provide emergency response. Without that, just working individually, no one person could have done the job. So it's really, when we talk about coming together there, some of it is about the powers that we have, but mostly it's about the impact that we can have by being coordinated and collaborating.
Yeah, that's a cooperation that we see. This is, again, like Ms. Daniama, strong proponent, champion, greatest cheerleader for the certain teams, because I can think of some communities just within the neighborhood. You may have a doctor, a teacher, you may have the heavy equipment operator, the mechanic, the plumber, and all these people who are able, not as as you shared, but similar assists, get in the neighborhood running. So imagine you have your EMS team with your fire out and about responding collectively, cohesively, in a cooperative manner. It makes the community stronger. When we take this short break, spend the next 15 minutes or so with you and share with us so that the public understands that there are roles for us to play and the importance of why we're doing and why we're doing it the way we are. All right, I'm going to pause and take that break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Summer, the season for backyard gatherings, beach parties, office socials, and camps for kids. Make the most of your summer party and leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters or double meat wrap platters and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway Box to Go with the option of a 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. Cater your summer with Subway. Visit Subway.ky for menu options. Subway. Eat fresh.
We's back this Friday for another, you know what it is. Hopefully, we don't get blown away. Next topic for Siwa saying.
This Friday, it's all about
bush medicine. Now, bush medicine don't mean some politician cocoa tea.
You know there's 2 of them, right?
Boy, listen, I just trying to clear things up and you're trying to make this into a bushfire now?
Okay, so what things we are talking about? What do you find out?
Well, I found a perfect saying for this weather. It's from Trinidad, but I'm making it ours. 22 hours in the bed. Back to the topic now. One of the things along the line of the bush medicine topic is about aloe versus Sempervirus. Remember that one? Find out now, maybe the aloe is the big spotted leaf one and the Sempervirus is a smaller breed or something like that. So that's some things that the callers can help us with. Where you is anyway? Sound like you're in a hole or something?
Yeah, this the virtual me.
No matter which one is live or virtual, still the same old short green to me.
Special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Join us this Friday.
Same time, 12:15 to 2:30.
And we're going to try to sort out everything.
Everybody get on the floor. This is a robbery.
Wait. Randy, that you?
Mr. Brown, get on the floor and mind your business.
Well, I tell you one thing. I ain't not been up here all day waiting in this line just for you to come up here to take the same money that I waiting on. Bobo, don't make me call your mama.
Well, it's back to school time now for my kids, and it's the only way I'm going to be able to afford all their school supplies.
But Randy, you not heard Lee's office products having a back-to-school sale, or? Come on, man. You don't need to rob no bank when Lee's giving you 15% discount on school supplies. And look at her, if you tell her Mr. Brown sent you, they will give you another 5% off. And just for shopping there, you get entered to win a new laptop, a new office desk and chair. It's a win-win, Bobo.
What you telling me?
Boy, Randy, you better get going. Sound like CI's finest coming down the road.
20 years.
Remember when Crew Road had no median and Linford Pearson was only 2 lanes?
We do.
When Dirty Reeds was down the street?
We do.
We have been there for the falls, the growth, and the rise. When your body and mind needed to change, Powerhouse Gym has been here. We've skated with you. Your first date, your daughter's first time on skates, your son's first strike. From football to squash, to karate and hockey, to bowling and concerts, and everything in between.
For 20 years,
so much has changed, some for the good and some not so much. Through it all, King Sports Center has been here for you, for Cayman.
King Sports Center, celebrating 20 years as Cayman's home for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Radio Cayman, your #1 community station, would like to remind you that we are in the hurricane season, and in order to survive a hurricane, you need to be prepared. If officials' sources say a hurricane is imminent, please board up or shutter up windows in your home or place of business. Remember to use good lumber, as makeshift boarding may actually cause more damage. Also put strong bracing on outside doors so that they are not blown off or blown in.
This hurricane advice was brought to you by Radio Cayman, your caring community radio station.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs, and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back. And thank you for joining us. And in the studio, Miss Gloria Macfield Nixon, together with Miss Danny Coleman. Really, we are grateful because when we see what we're capable of doing when we work together, and we appreciate that with a sense of humility, and we can surely thereafter enjoy, and be celebrated because we've done it with a sense of heart and a purpose. And yesterday, for some, as you said, could have been a tabletop exercise. It was very real. And the responsiveness, the seriousness with which I think we'll look at things going forward reminds us, not to be complacent, take too much for granted. Our forefathers never did; they were always prepared. What did they tell us? Make provision. They always made provision, planning beforehand. So, as you share with us, for the few other minutes as we discuss, what do you want to emphasize? What do you want our listeners to know? And as we prepare for what could be another weather incident, or it could be something completely unexpected, and it still presents a challenge for the country.
I think, thank you for that. I think the thing that cannot be stressed enough is the value of preparation. Mm-hmm. And as individuals, we all have a great deal of influence over how prepared we are in the event of a storm. We are accustomed to seeing a storm, form off the coast of Africa and take days, maybe weeks to get here. But sometimes they don't behave the way that we're accustomed to, and they can develop right off our coast, and they can develop quickly and keep strengthening very rapidly. So it's really important that we not take for granted we're going to have a long lead up, and that when we see the season getting prepared to start, go ahead and, get your supplies in hand. A lot of the reasons why we recommend non-perishable goods is so that they'll have that long shelf life. Mm-hmm. So for me, that includes a lot of tuna fish. I still have some bad flashbacks about corned beef from Hurricane Ivan. I've had it every way possible, some ways that I don't think it was ever intended to be eaten. So there's other canned food alternatives. But, we have a healthy supply of canned goods. We've got water on hand, including that bathtub of water, because that is so important if you lose your water supply. Lots of batteries on hand, ways to be able to receive communication. We have so many devices that we didn't have in Hurricane Ivan in terms of personal battery packs that you can use to power up your phone so that you can continue to communicate, including solar ones, so that if your power doesn't come back as quickly as you intend, but we get some sunlight after the event, that you can make advantage of that as well. There's so many gadgets and things at our disposal, but a lot of this just comes down to some common sense and some real commitment to put a little aside. It doesn't all have to be done in one go. Just putting a little aside, a couple of cans in the lead up to the storm, a bottle of water, so that you can feel more comfortable that when the storm is coming, that there's not this sense of panic because you're prepared. That will buy you significant time that you can then spend making some decisions regarding where you're going to shelter. And possibly, in the spirit of what we're talking about, lending a hand to a neighbor, including elderly persons who may need some assistance. So being prepared, using the lead up to the season well. And although we're already in the season, it's not too late to go down to the store, and while you're there, pick up a can for that next threat that we might have, and make sure you stay prepared. Or if you've used some cans, as I have done during this time, I also love a canned soup, but I use them all the time. You might tell I can't cook, so I'm accustomed to canned goods. But just making sure if you've used your supplies that you also take this opportunity in the days ahead to replenish.
Yeah. And these are things that we ordinarily would use anyway. So as you use it, my uncle always did that, long before we realized this was being touted. This is their experience, being prepared and planning beforehand. But as I hear from you, I think it's also crucial that we start to recognize that this takes away from that angst that we'll have when something is impending. We don't need to run. And many of us, even though we have all these things already in our houses, we're stockpiled, we're still going to have to get more. Maybe we'll get to a stage where we're content with what we have because we've been so well prepared that we can take that last walk around the property and ensure.
Yes.
I don't know. It's all about planning and preparation.
And it's about that peace of mind as well. There's so many things in a storm that you cannot control. Your preparations you can control. And so when we're thinking about the toll that this takes on our mental health, just being able to have a plan in place takes a considerable amount of toll away from an individual and makes them feel more empowered in the situation. So I don't think we should ever underestimate the power of being prepared.
If I may then ask, because I think this time around, either because we took it for granted, we didn't even take it as serious, it's only a tropical storm. For whatever reason, there was someone, I think, from both sides of the coin. They've been inundated with so much, no pun intended, inundated.
Sharp today.
I tell you, man. Vitamins are kicking in. From all that's been transpiring for the last year and a half, that any little thing just adds a little bit more of a fear factor to them, gets them more apprehensive and anxious. And then there are those who would say, well, I've done this, and they can almost do it in their sleep. So to that second category, who may have, this is just par for the course. Are there particular things in our planning and our preparation that we should be doing almost automatically? So we got the extra water, we got the foods, even those of us who may have particular diets for whatever reason, and then we're going about getting these things, and then as we get them, how do we position them and place them in a place so that they're safe and accessible?
I think supply kits nowadays aren't just for hurricanes; they're for everything.
Right.
I mean, last year's COVID supplies for a lot of people was a full. I think we've all become like preppers. It's really important that if somebody have a sudden onset event, for example, an earthquake or whatever it might be, a big fire, that we do have those things in place. So it's an all-round kit, making sure your kit is not expired. The expiry dates aren't. There's nothing worse mid-hurricane and having to eat a can of beans that have been out of date for about 20 years. So making sure that you do have your personalised kit of things that are up to date. And again, your luxuries. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to make sure you're comfortable as possible during a storm, including incorporating the kids in the whole planning, making sure you have things for your animals, whatever it might be. It's really important just to keep an eye on that and just to practice your plans as well. I mean, we can all have a family fire plan, but unless it's practiced, it's no good at all because no one's going to ingrain it into their cell membrane. So make sure you're practicing them. We have some great tips on our website, caymanprepared.ky, family planning kits for emergencies, as well as supply ideas and so forth, medications. It's just, personalising your own... but we can give you the ideas, and then you personalise it for your own needs.
I think the tip that we have is perhaps the most neglected and could have had the most impact in this event because of how much rain we had was keeping your trees pruned. If you look at the amount of damage that has been caused, I mean, it's heartbreaking. Every time I see a downed mango tree, I shed a tear. Right, and we've just seen the extent of the foliage that has gone from Cayman. These wonderful, mature, fruit-bearing trees, and I know that there'll be really tremendous efforts to salvage these, to write them up, and to support them. But there are things that we can do to reduce the likelihood that will happen, because not only does that mean you're going to lose that prize tree that's been giving you these wonderful mangoes for so long, but I've seen cases where that has meant it's damaged someone's home. It's fallen on a car and prevented their means of transportation, including if they had to evacuate. And it's also caused issues with our utilities. Quite a few. My mother is quite distraught right now, understandably so, because when her tree went down, it also impacted her water main. And so there's so many, sequential issues that come up that create new emergencies. So I would say that the trees are wonderful things, but preparing them for the storm is also important.
And again, we have a great lot of information on our website about just that and preparing your house as well. So please look at that, caymanprepared.ky.
I think we have a lot of information sometimes that we don't even realize that it's available to us or how accessible it is. And with the greatest of respect, and I say this to remind myself, we know it's there, but we don't go check it out.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. And maybe having these sort of dress rehearsals doesn't have to be
it's
a real
It's
life
a good wake-up call, I think, for so many people.
Yeah.
I think it's a really important, okay, this is a tropical storm. You can see what a tropical storm can do to the foliage, to the island itself, to roofs damage, drainage and so forth. So it's a really good time to sort of take note and sort of process what's happened over the last couple of days and make sure for the rest of the season we're really, really prepared.
I think on an island, in a small community like this, it highlights that everything's affected, from the farmers, to the fishermen, just to the boat enthusiasts. Where and how are they going to secure their boats? Is that traditional place where the mangroves are now developed, is it accessible? Is it available? Can they get into it? And if so, to what extent? Everything is interconnected.
And you mentioned our mangroves. Our mangroves have been such an important part of our protection. When you think about the fact that they have been protecting these islands from the days of their creation, and the continued value that they have in protecting property, but also protecting lives and our way of life. So I would say to people, you need to have tremendous respect if the events of these last 48 hours, but certainly of recent years doesn't demonstrate that there's a lot of toll that's being put on our natural environment, and we need to be more sensitive to that. It's not just a good thing to do, but it's a good thing to do for yourself because it's the first line of defense. So definitely want to just say that our natural environment, and we started off talking about our strategic objectives and what success looked like. And as you would imagine, very top of the list was very much to preserve lives. That was step one. And the key objective that we kept in mind throughout the entire operation. But we've expanded our views on what these strategic aims have to be because we realize the important part of our natural environment as well in providing that mitigation and risk management and making sure that we're able to protect lives and the way of life in Cayman. So I was really comforted when I saw that in preparing the strategic aims and objectives for this activation that Danny had included our natural environment as part of our considerations as well.
I think climate change is a very, very real thing. We're seeing storms these days are much quicker to form or rapidly intensify. They are getting worse and worse and worse. And if anyone else has anything to say about that, please do come and see me. I'd love to debate it for hours. At the same time, we really have to be considerate and sensitive to it and development and sustainable development and so forth. So it's great to see under the new administration to have that ministry really focused on sustainability and climate resiliency. And again, it's great to be part of that because, disaster response is... We're never going to be out of a job anytime soon because of I might be, but the actual hazard management certainly will be a fundamental part, and then a NEOG moving forward because disasters are happening more frequently.
Well, this goes back to what our ancestors, they made provision. They thought about what they were doing when they were building. They thought about how they used the natural habitat. They thought about the environment and their consequence. It is for us to do the same, and we see the consequence. Sometimes the ill effects of our lack of sensitivity.
Yep.
So Ms. Danny, Ms. Gloria, thank you very much for taking time with us. And I hope that, as we move forward, we realize that collectively we are stronger when we're working together. So please accept our sincerest gratitude for you and the entire 1,041 people, I think it was.
Simon Boxall's done a great job at increasing that social media. I will say again, thank you to you, though. I mean, communicators are absolutely key in any emergency. So radio, television, whatever it might be, it's such the role of the public informant is such a key thing to make sure people are safe. So we would like to thank you very much because, again, Radio Cayman does a stellar effort, and we're really proud to be part of that as well.
Sometimes the things that go on behind the scenes, people never need to know.
There you go.
Once it gets done.
Thank you so much. And when we talk about, continue to tune in to official resources and places to go for that reliable, respected information. I just want you to know that we have Radio Cayman very much in mind. So thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for that. And we are willing partners in making sure that the people are, appropriately and timely informed. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll pause and take a break, and when we come back, as Miss Gloria and Miss Danny gets back to much better things as the day unfolds. From CUC, Mr. Sasha Tibbetts will be your guest. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Grand Cayman Civil Service Association members, present and retired. The final backpack distribution day is Saturday, August 28th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you have not collected your 2 backpacks previously, then this is your opportunity. Just a reminder, members, please check your salary slip or HR person to assure your membership fee is updated. Retirees, check your records for your 2020-2021 fee receipt. Please bring an ID for collection. And if you are collecting for another member, please bring a signed note and copy of their ID as well. That's the final backpack distribution day, Saturday, August 28th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We hope to see you then. CISA, members serving members.
The CISA office is located upstairs Hospital Road Plaza. You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
During July and August, CUC's subcontractors, UMC, will be erecting poles and stringing power lines between 8 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. on Fridays and Mondays, and 6:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays on Rex Crichton Boulevard in Prospect. Motorists are encouraged to use Shamrock Road when possible. For more information, contact 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. We are a non-for-profit member-centric plan with a democratically elected volunteer board of trustees representing all sectors of the Cayman Islands economy. Chamber Pension has an all-in expense ratio of 0.72% over 16,000 members, $430 million in assets under management. We were the first multi-employer pension plan approved by the regulator in the late 1990s, and today we are still strong, secure, and are here for employees and employers alike. If you would like to join or request further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you.
Here's a public service announcement. The Department of Vehicle and Driver's Licensing DVDL wishes to inform the public of its post-Tropical Storm Grace operating hours. The Crew Road office is open at 1 p.m. today. Also, due to the ongoing post-storm impacts in the eastern and western districts, the Breakers and West Bay offices will remain closed today, resuming normal operational hours tomorrow, Friday the 20th of August, 2021. If you need more information, you can always visit www.dvdl.gov.ky.
Report Monday through Friday is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
In an effort to reduce the risk of fires at the Georgetown landfill, the Department of Environmental Health has updated policies for scrap metals, derelict vehicles, and equipment which can be dropped off to the Georgetown landfill Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. only. Vehicles should be separated from other waste and must be thoroughly emptied of all waste, batteries, and flammable material. Scrap metal should be sorted before arrival and free of waste and contamination. Batteries and electrical items should be separated from all other waste. For more information on how you can help prevent landfill fires and where to recycle, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to Mr. Sasha Tibbetts, the Vice President for Customer Services and Technology, for coming in and sharing with us. We had an interesting few hours this last month. Good afternoon. How are you?
Thanks for having me, by the way. Interesting. That's an interesting word to describe it. The company has been extremely busy over the last, 48 hours now with either preparing and or responding to Tropical Storm Grace. I had the privilege of watching a lot of the team from the control room last night. And when I say it's a privilege, it really is. Our staff are so dedicated to the work that they do, and they take it so seriously. And there's a very strong love of country in all of them, and they take it as almost as a national pride thing when things are going wrong, and they're working very hard to make things better. We have, as an example, we have a rule where we don't allow staff to work for more than 16 hours straight because there's fatigue issues and there can be safety implications as a result of that. And at around midnight last night, we had a number of staff that were getting to that limit, and they were still going flat out and working on things. And we had to say, look, you need to rest. There's somebody that's going to come and relieve you, but you need to leave and go and sleep. And then there was a discussion. And, in one instance, I remember one of our engineers saying to us, well, how long do I have to sleep before I can come back? That's just an example of many, and the pride and effort that the team take particularly in these disaster scenarios where, they want their island up and running, and they want our customers back online, not because we're telling them to do it, but because they're demanding the opportunity to do it for the customer. It's an amazing thing to watch.
I'm glad that you shared that publicly, because I've always had that perception that the team, as you call it, from when we used to go pay our bills in person, to the linesmen that we see out where there's a new connection because we moved into our new place, or whether it's, unfortunately some down power line because of weather. You always see that pride, you always see that professionalism, that dedication, and that level of front-facing staff always, showed loyalty, professionalism, dedication, commitment that I think you captured well, akin to national pride. Now, we may, as customers, complain about things, but I think that's more at my personal perspective, management, from the board and those people. We don't appreciate the love that we have for the frontline staff. So
no, the team are fantastic, and it's a privilege to work with them and work and serve the country in the way that we do.
Yeah, man. I think as a country we see that whatever complaints we got, maybe it's policy, maybe it's the upper echelons of management, but the team, the front line, those guys, front-facing staff, they, I think, have our love and our respect, and we see, and for what it's worth, thanks, because last evening, for instance, some of us may have been in the dark, maybe enjoy
there were teams. I know my personal story. I think my house was restored somewhere around 11 o'clock last night, and I got home around 1:30 in the morning. But when I was going home, there were teams that were just coming out, and they were still working this morning when I got back in. And we're rotating right now. We have, I think it's about 17 crews out on the road. That's despite having worked throughout the night. Obviously, we've had rotations and safety stops for staff, but we're rotating them, and it's all hands on deck. And we're progressing. We did a press release about an hour and a half ago stating that we had 4,500 customers still out of power. I just checked in with the control room while I was waiting to come on the show, and that number is down to 3,300. So we're progressing. There's a large number of small outages where it's one pole or one tree that has to come out of the line, and there's just a fixed number of resources that we have to get to those things, and we're working through them. Well, not one at a time, but 17 crews at a time. And we're progressing through. We think the vast majority of customers will be on at 4 o'clock by 4 o'clock this afternoon. There are a couple of areas, particularly there's one section in East End where there's a number of poles that are down. That there's a significant amount of work. We think there's going to be up until about 8 o'clock tonight, but 8 o'clock tonight, we're thinking done and dusted for pretty much everybody that's ready to receive power.
And that's a quick turnaround when you think about it. And, I know we were almost 20 hours or thereabouts without power, but, 20 hours, 20 days, for us sometimes 2 minutes without power, we're complaining, right?
Yeah. So, it's 20 hours. I think a lot of the power was lost somewhere around 5:30 in the morning yesterday when the winds really, really picked up. And, frankly, after the storm, when I went and drove around, when it was finally safe to leave home and take a look, I was tremendously surprised to see how well the infrastructure did. The construction standards that we've been using, and in almost every instance where there was a problem, it was a tree that had blown down and taken the line down or had contributed to it. From a wind resistance standpoint, the infrastructure held up very well. But when you throw a several £1,000 tree at it, it's a challenge. And that it's a message that we give to our customers with respect to keeping trees out of the line. And I think your prior guest was mentioning that as well, that as part of preparation you really want to do that. But also when you're planting the trees, look up. If there's a power line up there, it's going to be a problem in 10 years. So consider where you plant your trees as well.
Those two things may seem almost obvious, and hopefully when we plant that tree, we expect it to grow, it will grow. But very few of us think, well, how close is it to the building, to the road? Are we looking up and it's sprayed? Maybe we have a garden wall. So we're not thinking. And then when we're pruning the tree, maybe just those two things, but other tips that you can help us to help ourselves. Because at the end of the day, if it's the power line in the area, well, we're going to be affected by it because of our tree that toppled over. Not just the car or the fence or the building that's damaged, but we can't watch our favorite show that's coming up, right? We don't have TV.
Yeah.
Some people are just going to have that.
Yeah. So keeping the trees out of the line. The best method is prevention. Don't plant it there. In some cases, the tree's there before the line is run, and in that instance, it's best to just prune it and keep it away. I know when we go out and the lines where there's trees sort of in the public domain, we try and cut it back as much as 10, 15 feet away from the line so that even when it does blow, it doesn't get close. But, trees, like humans, they grow. And, they no matter when you cut it this year, it's going to be back again next year. So the best thing is to just not plant them in that area in the first instance.
And that prune, I'm not, an agronomist or, know much about trees, but sometimes when we prune it, we should do so properly, not just where we know people using it to hack it up. You're not just taking your machete and chopping and getting the limb off. You want to do it in a way that it's...
Yeah, and there are companies that can do that as well for you and make sure it's done nicely for your garden if you do have a tree that's close by.
Right, and even the public domain as well. Thanks for the update, Sasha, as you share with us. Maybe you could ask equally now, when you're looking at sort of, let's just use the passage of this storm, power is out, two things. To what extent was Grand Cayman affected? Because looking at the map that you have, that app there, interesting. It was quite a nice feat. Only place that didn't have sort of power off was in the ponds, the waterways. Everybody seems to be affected everywhere.
Yeah, interestingly enough, we didn't lose everybody in the storm. We still had 4 circuits that were that didn't have damage on them during the storm, and we were able to keep them energized. Most of those were in the town area close to the plant. All of the outbound districts, whether it be West Bay, 7 Mile Beach, even down South Sound area, and everything east was offline. So in that respect, it was good to see that when we started our restoration, we weren't starting from scratch, and there was, we had the generation running all night long, all throughout the storm to support those 4 circuits, which wasn't a lot. We have 25 in total, but at least some of the infrastructure was still on. And as we started the restoration, we had crews that were out doing an inspection of the facilities to see what needed to be repaired, and those crews were out long before the all clear was given. And so we probably spent about 2 or 3 hours doing that while the winds were still going and it was still raining very hard. But in those instances, it was still unsafe to put somebody in a bucket 30 feet, 45 feet, 60 feet up in the air in some instances to address the small damages that we could have seen. And it's in many of the cases, it was a 20-minute job or a 30-minute job, but to put somebody up in the air on a tall bucket and then a 40-mile-an-hour gust comes along, it's an incredibly unsafe situation to be in. So we really had to wait for the winds to die down. But the good thing is we had a fairly good assessment of where the areas were, such that when we started, we could prioritize that activity. And that led, in a large instance, to the success of the restoration throughout the night last night.
So we speak to Sasha Tibbetts, the Vice President for Customer Services and Technology at CUC. In planning the restoration, so you have an assessment, you know where the power is out. Obviously, places like hospitals, for instance, would be prioritized. But how do you determine, if we can ask?
Sure. Who goes first? Well, we do prioritize. We take input from various government agencies on priority sites, and typically those are things like hospital, airport, and we were also looking at some of the quarantine facilities as well. And then the rest of it is we then get into sort of utility infrastructures, so water companies, phone companies, etc., and sort of the sites that have the most impact. However, there's some realities to that as well. We don't do those first and then do everybody else, because in some instances, the damage to the infrastructure that's serving those facilities is going to take a long time. And so we then look and say, well, we can address that, but they're running on a generator, or we can get to that by serving these 5 or 10,000 customers that we can fix easily. So it's not just we go after the critical infrastructure and then we go after it's a bit of a how much work is it going to take to get there, and can we bring other customers on faster with a lot less work? So it's really just trying to get as many customers back on as fast as possible.
Well, it's fantastic. So the app giving us updates. Maybe I want to ask you again after we take this caller about determining the safety, because we saw the crews out in the rain doing work. The winds were down by then, but it was still raining. We could hear them, we could see them. They were doing stuff. Maybe we'll ask you at what point is it, other than high winds and the heights of the bucket truck, that you say, well, no, we won't have our teams.
It's really just high winds and lightning that'll we'll stand down for.
Okay.
The rain, we've got it. We've got equipment and gear to deal with it. It does make working a little bit more difficult and less efficient, but the crew, they're trained in dealing with those situations, and they were certainly dealing with it yesterday evening and doing a fantastic job in the process.
They were indeed. I mean, lots of rain. There's only one good thing to do. Eat a fish, read a book. You shouldn't be working in the rain. Mr. Sasha Tibbetts, let's go to the phones and join this caller. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon to you both.
Good afternoon, ma'am. How are you?
Okay. I'd just like to point this out. I live in Snug Harbor, and I live on Jennifer Drive. And the power came on Andrew Drive from last night, this morning. And it has not come on Jennifer Drive.
Yeah, we're aware of that. There are a number of very small areas, like you're describing, where neighboring neighbors have power, and then perhaps you don't. Well, I know you don't because you just said it. And I don't know the specifics about Jennifer Drive, but I do know that in many cases what you'll find is there's a tree that's involved and we just haven't got to removing that tree, or there's a damage to a piece of line that we just haven't, it's on the list of things that we're working to do. I suspect that by 4 o'clock this afternoon, Jennifer Drive and the other places like this are going to get sorted out properly.
But sir, may I point this out? Because I was on another talk show this morning, and somebody called up after and said, "Oh, Snug Harbor is up," and they're saying Snug Harbor is up. All of Snug Harbor isn't up.
Correct. Correct. No, we're certainly aware of that. In fact, Dwayne was just talking about the outage map that we have. We do have a system in our control room that can sort of speak directly to individual customer meters to poll and make sure whether they are or not online, and then it's shown graphically where those outages are. And in fact, you can go and take a look on our website. That map is displayed in a sort of basic form on our website. Then you can go and click on the outage in your area. There's a little box that will represent the outage in your area, and you can get some basic data, including a sort of scheduled restoration time. I will say that with the vast amount of information that came through that system last night, we did have some system troubles with it, and there were times when it was inaccurate. But the amount of information coming through now is at a more manageable level, and the information that's being provided there is a lot more reliable.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. But I wish I was young enough to do all the things you tell me to do. I don't know to do all those things. But I'm begging you because my house is like hot. I'm parked in Burger King in my car now because I can't take the heat anymore.
Well, we're doing our best for you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a nice day.
You too, Ms. B.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. But as you shared, I can imagine last evening the amount of information coming over your app, given the impact. Yeah, everybody seems to have had some relative degree of outage.
Yeah, well, we had on top of all of the systems that several tens of thousands of data points in our control system, as well as the 32,000 meters that we have out there, and all of those are data points that we're managing. And needless to say, I think we learned some lessons last night, and I know that our teams are already addressing those so that in future storms we can be providing a lot more robust information in the thick of things rather than what happened with that mapping system last night.
Well, we certainly welcome your company now, and future the invitation is always there, but we don't want to impose on you. And as you sort of share with us in closing discussions, what is important from your CEC's perspective for us as customers, preparing for, but responding after, even from planting the tree to its pruning? But share with us.
Well, I think the most important thing, there's two important things. Number one is making sure your storm preparations are done well. I think your prior guest was talking about that. Some of the things that you want to think about during a storm where there's a good chance that you could lose power. If you are going to use a generator, make sure the generator is outside. If you're going to connect the generator to items, which I assume is why you would have the generator, make sure it's installed by an electrician if you're going to wire it into your home through an automatic transfer switch. If you're not doing that, highly recommended to not wire your generator into the panel. As has happened, it's a huge safety risk, both for the homeowner and for CUC when we come to do restoration, because it can backfeed into a line that we think is de-energized. So it's very important that that's not done. In storms, you need to make sure that even though you see a line on the ground, don't think it is de-energized. It is entirely possible that it is not, even if it's not sparking. So you really do have to stay away from them. And those are some of the main things.
I can imagine, you see it there and you think, quite a bit of a jolt if you pick it up.
Well, a jolt would be lucky. I mean, it really is a deadly force. And it's not something that you want to guess about. Just don't do it. Call 911. Call CUC.
All right. And you know, too many times I think we come back to what we said earlier. Yeah, take things for granted. We don't appreciate what is there. Planting the pruning to being prepared, to appreciating that there's a level of responsiveness. And for what it's worth, man, we see the team out there. It's commendable what we can and what we're sort of doing as we go forward. Hopefully the next storm won't affect us.
Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Sasha Tibbetts, the Vice President of CUC for Customer Services Technology, invite you and your team to not only continue to enjoy your work and exhibit that great determination, professionalism, and dedication, but to be safe as well and to have a wonderful rest of this afternoon as we go into tomorrow and the weekend. That each day there's a beam of sunshine that just promises to be one of the bountiful blessings, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to pause and take that short break. When we come back, I'm going to see if I can encourage Miss Susan to sing. She's probably like a canary. So stay tuned. We'll talk today.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecasts, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. This evening's COVID-19 vaccination clinic in Prospect has been postponed at this time. The COVID vaccine clinic will resume tomorrow, August 20th, in Camana Bay, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. In international news, a man who allegedly stabbed his 9 months pregnant partner has been arrested for attempted murder, but will face no charges over the death of her unborn baby, prosecutors say. The 23-year-old man allegedly attacked the woman on Monday at their home in the eastern province of Liège in Belgium. The woman is fighting for life in hospital, but her baby did not survive. COVID-19 vaccine booster jabs will be offered to all Americans from September 20th, according to U.S. officials. The jabs will first be given to healthcare workers, nursing home residents, and older people who were vaccinated at least 8 months ago. The White House says the initiative is a response to rising infections from the Delta variant and evidence that the protectiveness of the vaccine fades. The trial of the U.S. R&B singer R. Kelly has begun at a court in Brooklyn, New York. The star is accused of racketeering, sexual abuse, and bribery, charges which he has repeatedly denied. Some of the allegations made against the singer date back for more than 20 years. If he is convicted on all counts, he could be sentenced to several decades in prison. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Good afternoon. Let us take a look at some public service announcements. The public is asked to note that the General Post Office in Georgetown and the Post Office in East End are closed today. It is anticipated that both post offices will reopen for normal operating hours tomorrow, Friday, the 20th of August. All other post office locations in Grand Cayman and the Sister Islands are open today for normal operating hours. Also, there have been 4 sites that have been set up for debris management, temporary dump sites for storm cleanup, vegetation only, and they are as follows. East End at the East End Civic Center, Bordentown at the Government Emergency Training Site on Anton Borden Road, and Prospect NRA stockpile at Pondexter Road, and in West Bay at the vacant Crown land next to the Aidbush Stadium. It is for the collection of vegetation only.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks for the company for the remaining half hour or so of some open line as we go straight to your phones. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon. I'm just calling to actually make a couple of comments. I know we just went through, there's some dispute whether it was a storm or actually a Category 1 or 2 hurricane. Well, if we had miles clocking at over 90 miles per hour at the airport, definitely was going up to a Category 2. But my call is really regarding the debris that is on the bypass going towards Dart. This man is a billionaire. We allow him to come in here and we plant all of these trees to beautify the roads. The roads are needed for people to get to and from West Bay to Georgetown, to their homes, their businesses, and whatever. And whereas some people may be limited to actually get a crew out to do this, this is a billionaire, not a millionaire, but a billionaire. And a lot of that debris is on both lanes coming and going, or going to west and coming north or south. And I think that both of those lanes need to be cleared up a bit more. The trees are hanging right into the lanes. If someone, drives right into those and get killed this afternoon, that's carelessness. Because we've had a hurricane, but we've had the all clear for quite a long time now. And crews should have been there getting that road cleared up. We need that accessible for all people to use. And, it's amazing that we have allowed him to come in and develop and to move along and to do what he wants. But here it is, he's actually causing, he could cause accidents and stuff. Now, this stuff came down by a hurricane. That's nature. But to clean it up, he should have had crews out there from early this morning, cutting that debris back, even if he couldn't remove it, but at least put it on the sides where the road is accessible to people coming and fro, and that it won't cause accidents for anyone, especially for the elderly people or those people that are driving buses or something to get the handicap or people back and forth to the hospital. We've got to think about our citizens and about our country and about our people. Now, I'm not complaining about this. This is not a complaint about the government or anything. I'm just saying that this man has a responsibility since he has given us road and taken the main road from us in West Bay because of his power and his money. He should be on the ground, and environmental health should be on the ground, forcing him, demanding him, and letting him know that if you are going to have all of these trees planted, when they come down, be prepared to be there immediately, because you cannot have road access blocked like that to our citizens. Because there are fines for such things. When you dump things on the road, when you leave something hazardous on the road and can cause an accident to someone else or death to someone else, you can be held liable for it. And that's exactly what I'm seeing on the West Bay bypass, and that should not be happening.
Right.
So I hope that Mr. Dart and his family, his group of companies and management team are listening, and I hope that they get to this immediately, because that is extremely important.
Right. No, you make a good point, but the question, who owns the road? Is it owned by government or a private entity?
Pardon?
The road that you're talking on, who owns it? I hear your point, but is it a public road that is owned by the country or is it a private road?
That's the thing, Dwayne. You know, we think it's owned by the country, but this man owns from, you know, from the North Town by the dump all the way down to the bypass, all the way down to nearly Morgan's Harbor, and he has a whole nursery that we've allowed him to plant all these other trees that are really not indigenous to our country that can really withstand, you know, hurricanes and so forth, which is our great trees, you know, our casuarina, or some of our palms and so forth. We've allowed him to pack in all of these things around these bypasses and so forth. But if you're going to do that, be prepared to at least clean the country up and make sure that, you know, I mean, look, I was driving there just now, and if I wasn't dilly-dallying and making sure and keeping my eyes on the road, I would have hit several trees, which would have caused me to flip. And I could have killed myself or hurt someone else in the other lane.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we need, not from a billionaire. Not a millionaire, a billion. I keep saying that for a specific purpose, because this man has unlimited money to do whatever he wants in the country. And, you know, I don't think that's right. You're coming into this country, let's make sure you keep it safe for our people. Safe.
Okay. Certainly appreciate that. And anything else you want to share with us?
Pardon?
No, I thank you for your comments. Is there anything else that you want to share?
Oh, no, that really upset me, because here it is. That is access for all of our citizens, especially the West Bay people. And, you know, the business people, the hotels and so forth. And, you know, that's why I really was upset, because it says, here it is. You know, he's building all of these different buildings back there, and he's got all this unlimited money. But here it is, our roads are compromised. Now, whether it's government, I think he has an obligation to make sure that road is clean. He has to have responsibility. Government cannot be held responsible just alone, because, I mean, like I say, it's going in between his property. So he has to own something. I don't have the documents to say that and so forth, but he must have some responsibility to making sure that all that stuff he planted there, you know, gets cleaned up, even if it was, you know, not blocking the lanes, but just heaped up and put up to say, you know, we'll get to it later when we can. That's fine. But not having the lanes blocked like that, Wayne, where accidents can easily happen. The blink of an eye, something can happen.
True.
And as I said, there's many people who have to get back and forth to work, and that those roads need to be cleared. That's all.
Right.
I'm just a concerned citizen, and that bothered me for my country, because, you know, I remember most of the work was done back by the public works, and then, of course, we developed all of these different communities, going to the communities and getting people to do yard work and cleanup, which is another great idea since we've gone through such a thing and it's been hit like this. It would be good, not just waiting till Christmas, but for our government to get some of these young men that are out of work and young women that are out of work that are willing to do some of the cleanup, to do the public roads for sure. But Mr. Dodd has responsibility, because he's the one who went in there and developed and got his whole, he owns the Ritz, he owns the Kipton, he owns the bypass from, like I said, from North Down all the way going straight back into West Bay, Morgan's Harbor area. And he's the one that's planted these trees. We even allowed him and gave him a permit to bring in his own trees, which should have never happened, because we have enough nurseries here, and that money should have been saved, should have been able to stay here in this country and feed our nurseries and our people here. But we gave him a permit to do what he wanted to do as well. And I know if I was running things would be a lot different, because he wouldn't have had all these permits. The work would have to stay here. You know, he would have to give back to our people. The contractors he was going to use would have to be from here. And I mean actual Caymanians. I mean a lot of our indigenous people that are out of work. You know, electrical people, contract plumbing and so forth. Not just the big companies, Davenport and Phoenix and McAlpine, but a lot of them have mixed, of course, Caymanians and foreigners alike. But I'm just saying that if once we've given him all of this right to do what he wanted to do, and all of the stuff came from his nursery, he has an obligation to make sure it is safe.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for that. As we take the other caller, good afternoon, welcome, thanks for calling. Hello, good afternoon. Hey, Kitty, we'll join that caller when we can, but we invite you to call us and share your thoughts with us. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. We'll pause and take the final short break, but when we come back, we'll invite you to call and share your thoughts with us. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Look at you, listening to the radio, tuning in, getting stuff done. Total doer. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're getting your oil changed, or grabbing some chicken. Maybe you're doing something that's nobody's business but yours. Hey, that's cool. We're all doing something. Now you can join a whole new community of doers doing more on findyellow.com. With custom search, local experts, and trusted reviews, whatever you're doing, get it done on findyellow.com.
The 2021 census begins on the 10th of October. Every person in the Cayman Islands will be counted. The population count and data are protected and authorized by the Statistics Act. The information is confidential and cannot be shared with any law enforcement agency. Every person counts, no matter who you are or where you live. So have your say in the 2021 census.
2021 census. Everyone counts.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for sharing with us. It's a Thursday. It's open line. Good afternoon. Welcome. How are you?
Good afternoon, Sterling. How are you, sir?
Very thankful. And yourself?
I'm pretty good, praise God.
Amen.
Listen, I don't want to make light of anybody's problems, because just before the last lady, there was a lady from Snug Harbor who was saying she had a major problem, and I must say I sympathize with that. So although my circumstances are a whole lot better, by 10:15 or so last night, I live in Red Bay. We got back our lights, and I was just praising CUC and thinking that it must have caused them a lot of problems to sort everything out. And I thought that by the time ours came back, everybody else has had, but apparently that's not the case. So I while being cognizant of the fact that there are other people who have problems, on behalf of the people in Red Bay, I want to say thank you, CUC. I think you did a fine job. I found your efforts of the highest order. So I just want to say thanks.
All right.
But in addition to that, Wayne, I must say that my conscience bothers me. It would bother me forever if I didn't say that I think that this island owes a debt of gratitude to Mr. Dart and his company. He has brought us a long way. Everything might not be perfect for everybody. Certainly he has done nothing personally for me. I don't even know him or anybody in his team. But, you see, I just get the feeling that there are some people who would say, oh, sir, can you help me to move this thing from here to there, and then maybe a little further? And so once it's exactly where they want it, they say, okay, bye-bye. No thank you, no sense of gratitude. I think that has moved this island, this country along quite a bit. And rather than accosting him and abusing him for a thing like a tree fell on the road, come on, it's a storm. He didn't cause it. And his intentions were at least good. It was for beautification purposes, in addition to which plants are always good for us human beings. They inhale carbon dioxide, while that's what we exhale, and the vice versa is true. So I feel that maybe we should call on Dart to say, hey, can you help us? But I found the lady's attitude totally inappropriate. I have to say that. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of blowback from this and a lot of hatred from all sorts of people, but my conscience would not let me not say that. Dwayne. I'm so sorry, but my conscience will not let me not say that. As a talk show host, I can sense that your sympathies were not necessarily fully with her, at least. But she's such a strong lady, obviously a very educated lady, and I respect that fact. But I think that her whole attitude, her whole approach was so wrong and so unjust. And I thought I needed to say that, and maybe let the chips fall where they may. I'll let you go, and I thank you for accommodating me.
Thank you, man. And if we can be accommodating one to another and respectful in our responses and ensuring that everyone's opinion has equal value. 89498037 or hit the Flow toll-free line if you want. Let's go to the phones. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Sterling Green. How you doing? Good to hear you back on the radio as well.
Thank you, man. It's always good to be back.
With that beautiful talk show host answering the phone there,
Oh, makes my life better, huh? Thank you, man.
I tell you, I heard her playing the music this morning. I say, that has to be Susan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I just tuned in and heard you would say two callers, the later caller and the last caller. And the last caller is who I have to agree with. I mean, it is totally wrong for that lady to call in and lambast Dart the way that she did. Sterling Green, yes, he got billions probably. Well, I shouldn't say probably because, based on reports that go about and so forth, but not because he invested his money into buildings and whatever else, that he is God that can, jump on the spur of a moment and get things done on a snap of a finger or a blink of an eye. Things take time, and I have seen stuff that he has done to preserve trees rather than destroy them. So while they turn down, people just have to use their eyes and be cautious and drive with care. Due care and attention is what they tell you in the road code.
Right.
I mean, I do not agree with her one iota. The last caller, I caught the tail end here because I had stepped out, but what he was saying made perfect sense. I agree with him. I for one love to see trees planted, and it beautifies the medium of the road. He built the road, but the road is actually our road. So while she's there talking about that, why don't she go there and at least with a machete and try to help instead of castigating somebody for what they have done to make the place look good.
Hey, thanks so much, man. Anything else you want to share with us?
Just saying, thank God for
Amen.
Sparing our lives again to see at least unharmed, to see that another day and another storm go by, that we really never lost a life or anything really significant other than the foliage which can grow back and replant and so forth. Some people have damage to their homes, which I've seen quite a few damaged homes, but like I say, no real medical loss of it or anything. So that is very, very good. And honestly, we need to get on our knees and thank God for sparing our lives.
Thank you, and that is true, man. That's give thanks. And as we take the next caller, good afternoon, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
How are you doing? This is Annie.
The voice is so distinctive. I am well. How about you?
I am good. I'm giving thanks like everybody else. We've sustained damage, but we're still very fortunate.
True.
I caught the tail end of your conversation with Mr. Sasha Sivitz from CUC, and I just wanted to say a special thank you to CUC, because just personally, we had a situation on the Tuesday evening, and the response from them was phenomenal. So really appreciate the work that they're doing to get us all back up and functioning. And then, of course, from a National Trust perspective, we are currently assessing our site, and we sustained some damage, but again, we're thankful, but we're in the process of doing that. And we may call out for some help for volunteers at some point to help us with one or two of our sites, but again, it's just like everybody else, making sure that our blue iguanas are safe, and so far we've been able to account for that, and just hopefully getting everything back up and functioning for the week ahead.
It's something I think when you're calling your volunteers and you're able to get everybody on board, we can make much of the work that lies ahead if we're doing it together. So as you do, true. Yep. Well, hopefully we'll get there.
Yep, absolutely. We will keep people posted on the status of our sites. We're all closed right now, and we'll keep people posted via social media. Our hope is that by next week we can reopen some of the sites for the public again. And we thank everybody for their support so far. And of course, they can always email us or check in with us. And of course, we think of all of our other kind of sister NGOs and national attractions. And I know Botanic Park has sustained quite a bit of damage, etc. So we think of everybody who is in our communities just working together to fix our homes and our historic sites and attractions.
Yeah. Definitely need to value our built heritage, certainly pay attention to our natural environment, and appreciate that as people we're impacting it many times unconsciously without really seeing the ill effects of what we're doing. So you keep informed, and hopefully through your continued sort of diligence we'll start to recognize that we can do more together to ensure future generations can enjoy it as well.
That's very true.
Right.
Very true. So thanks again, Dwayne, and again a very special thank you to CUC, the Water Authority, and the Cayman Water Company. For just making sure that we all at least have the basics, or we'll have some of these utilities up as quickly as possible, because we do know that they work around the clock, and we really are appreciative of it.
All right. Well, looking forward to hearing from you on another food venture, so let me know, all right?
All right. Sounds good. Thanks,
Dwayne. Take care.
All right.
Thanks.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.
And everything, and we need to be able to reflect on it, and sometimes call those things aren't as if they were. Step up and step out in order to not just stay on the right side of the sunshine, but to appreciate that life comes at you fast and it takes its toll, but we can't allow it to weigh us down too much, because we invariably have ill effects on people that mean a lot. And if we add burdens to their basket, wouldn't it be best to add blessings instead, to all that they bestow on others? 8949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. You can WhatsApp 925-3261 and share your thoughts with us. Tomorrow is Friday, and Ray Banker, in the midst of all the storm, he's been ably preparing, working feverishly to bring us another production of Siwa Saying. I think the rain couldn't dampen his spirits. It certainly made him more conscious of the bush medicine as we get into that discussion tomorrow. And we're looking forward to that. Maybe he'll bring a little bit more joy to our spirits, a little bit more knowledge, to our minds, and certainly a lot more laughter, to our bellies. Because Ray knows how to, mix it up really well. As that last caller prior to this one shared, none of them is Susan. I can tell her take on music. So we got a easy listening songs for you until 3 o'clock. When we get into the Super Jam. Thank you again, to Kathy and OSC for sort of holding the fort for the last 3 days. It was challenging in the midst of the storm. We're here. That's why Radio Cayman is a strong, credible part, of this community, and why we have such a great love and respect for all of our listeners. We are here with a great sense of humility and pride, respect and responsibility, and a desire to ensure that you have accurate and timely information. So if you don't hear the Radio Cayman, you have to question whether it's legit or not. We are who we are, because we always will be. All right. Because tomorrow we'll wake up to see another day and we'll be a part of it. And we want to get into the fray, but we'll make it not just a power play, but a chance to recognize that the day goes on because we are positive and productive. And sometimes, the lips that smile are also the lips that embrace. Or they're also the lips, that can, cause you to think and wonder and question. Until tomorrow, my friends, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
You are listening to Radio